Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be discussing my surprising and disappointing reads of 2020. Throughout January you're going to be getting, best books, worst books, reading stats and ranking all of them. So look forward to that. But I decided to combine the surprising and the disappointing ones together. The thing with surprising and disappointing reads is it's all about expectation. There's books here that are on the disappointing list that have the same rating as books on the surprising list because I have different expectations for different genres or different authors. So it's all about expectations. And so a lot of these books, even if they're disappointing to me, I did enjoy them. Just I thought I would adore them. So don't be offended. Well, I think that I will jump straight into it and I'm going to just alternate between a disappointing read and a surprising read. So my first disappointing read that I will talk about is Nevernight in God's Grave by J. Kristoff. I thought I would enjoy these so much because they're so hyped. Everyone seems to love them and I thought I would too because it's adult fantasy that everyone loves and I just did not like them. I gave Nevernight a 2.5 out of 5 stars and God's Grave a 2 out of 5 stars. So they were definitely disappointing to me. I have spoken about these, maybe not Nevernight. I mean, I kind of spoke about Nevernight. I definitely spoke about God's Grave. I don't know what month I read it in. Maybe September. It wasn't for me personally. So the series follows Mia Corvere, and when she was 10 years old, her father was executed for trying to start a rebellion, and then her mother was killed as well, and her little brother. So she's the only one who survives. So she spends her life trying to get revenge on the people who destroyed her family. And in the first book, we follow her as she goes to an assassin school. I did not enjoy the writing style in this series. I thought it was very over the top and annoying and it bugged me so much. And it wasn't even the footnotes. I know a lot of people complain about the footnotes. Those actually didn't bother me because they actually said interesting things about the world. It was all to do with world building. Like, the world in here is incredible and it's built absolutely amazing, but everything else kind of failed for me. I don't like the characters. I don't like how he writes Mia. I mean, I think she's 16 in the first book and the way she's described, I don't like it. And I don't know, J. Kristoff's in his 30s and he's writing, yeah, I don't like it. So those are my first disappointing reads. My first surprising read is actually connected to those, and that is Dark Dawn by J. Kristoff. Yes, this made it into the surprising. I gave this a 3.5 out of 5 stars. I actually quite enjoyed it. Yes, the writing still bugged me. I still didn't love any of the characters and all of that, but I was far more interested in the plot and I actually enjoyed it a bit more because he actually makes fun of himself nearly in this book, because it's like, oh, of course it's written by a man. Look at the way Mia is written. And I'm like, yes, that's what I've been saying all along. So I actually found this quite enjoyable, which I think people who like this series don't like this one as much. So, whoops. There was nothing that I hated about this book, but again, it's just the fact that I wasn't really connected to any of the characters or the relationships or any of that. But I thought the plot in here was much more interesting than in previous books, so I was a little more invested. The next disappointing read that I'm going to talk about is Supernova by Marissa Meyer. I gave this a 3.5 at the time, but honestly I'm not really sure do I agree with that anymore. But the year is over. I don't change ratings after a year is finished, so we're gonna just leave it. Well, I loved Renegades. 5 out of 5 stars. I absolutely adored it. And I really enjoyed Arch Enemies, and I gave that, I think, a 4 out of 5 stars. And this just let me down. I still gave it a 3.5. Again, I'm not sure do I agree with that, but I had much higher expectations for this and it just did not live up to those. I believe I spoke about this in July. So in the reading writer vlog and in just my July wrap up, I think I talked about this. So I can't really go into it because of spoilers, but the ending was just really unsatisfying to me and I thought it wasn't dealt with the way I wanted it to be. I feel like the Lunar Chronicles, those books are quite young which is fine. I think they're kind of on the younger side of YA. And so it's, you know, kind of, it's quite happy and jolly and all of that. I thought Renegades was slightly older, and it was kind of, there was a bit darker themes, you know, there was kind of like maybe a bit of grey morality, and there was questions of, well, maybe these good people, they're doing their best, but like, is their best good enough, kind of? And I thought there was a lot of complex questions in this series. And then it just seemed to like get younger and younger as I read it. And it felt like quite a young read to me. And I felt like the way she finished the story was an easy way out. I guess I just expected, like, you know, just some sort of like discussion. And it was just not discussed. The Renegade series, it follows Nova, who is an anarchist, and it follows Adrian, who is the son of two of the most famous heroes, which are the Renegades. And then Nova goes and she spies in the Renegades. And it's just their story and all of that. And I was disappointed by the ending of it. The next one I don't actually own, but unlike Supernova, which was a disappointing ending to a story, this one was actually a story that was later in a series that I actually really enjoyed. And that is Tohanu by Ursula K. Le Guin. I really enjoyed this. I was not the biggest fan of the Earthsea cycle, which is, you know, classic fantasy and all of that. And I just didn't love it. But Tohanu and also The Other Wind, which is the final book, the two of them I really liked. They weren't favourites or anything, they were 4 stars, but after not enjoying the first 3, I was just so happy about Tohanu. It was written way later than the original books, and I think you can kind of see that. But again, this is a book that actually fans of the series don't like as much as the others because it's too feminist for them. But I really enjoyed it. I thought it was very interesting, and it wasn't just about like going from place to place, which the other books were kind of about. I thought the other books were very repetitive. You know, Ged went to this place, Ged wins, Ged went to this place. And I thought it was very repetitive. And then in this one, so we're following Tenar, who we met in the Tombs of Atuan, and we're following her as she's older in life. So, which is something I feel like you don't get as much, an older woman as the main point of view. And she's not doing anything like incredible or anything like that. You just see her discussing all of the people she's been in her life. So she was who she was in the Tombs of Atuan, and then she was a mother, and now she kind of doesn't know what she is now because she's a widow, but no, where is her place? And I thought it was a really interesting story and a perspective that I feel like we don't get that much. So I quite enjoyed it. Next disappointments I'm going to talk about are Thunderhead and The Toll by Neil Shusterman. I read Scythe right at the end of 2019. Like, it was the final book. I finished at like 5 to 12, so can't talk about that. But I quite enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars. It was a solid book. And then I just didn't love these as much. Again, I gave them 3.5s, both of them. Again, not sure do I agree with that, but last year problem. And I was really interested in where the series would go after Scythe. I heard it got better, and I quite enjoyed Scythe. I liked the beginnings of it, and I thought it was very interesting, and it did some really great groundwork. And I was excited to see how it would be built upon and all of this, and I didn't like it. I know a lot of people really don't like how The Toll went, but most people think that Thunderhead is the best of the series, and I disagree. I think these two were about the same level, and I think Scythe was the best. And I'm trying to remember because they were the second and third books I read this year, so it's kind of hard to remember, but I'm pretty sure they kind of put me in a bit of a slump. And yeah, they took me way longer to read, I think, than they should have. Or at least Thunderhead anyway. It took me like 3/4 of the book before I actually got like interested in it. And then the ending was really intense, and I was really excited to get to the third book. And then the third book happened, and I just didn't really care. I didn't hate the ending or anything. I know a lot of people did. I'm not a fan of the ending, but I don't hate it either. I just kind of don't care. I honestly can't remember a single thing that happens in this series. I know they were some of the first books I read this year, but I should still remember something. This series, this follows a utopian, which utopias are never utopias. It follows a utopian society where death, war, hunger, all of those things, they've all been eradicated. But they still have the issue of population control, and so there are these things called SCRIBD, and SCRIBD are basically given the job to kill people. And so there are some who are, you know, who do it by looking at statistics and, okay, so before we stopped death, this many people died in car accidents and they were this age, and then they go and find someone that age to kill. And then there's also some other people who just kind of enjoy doing their job of killing people, and it's a story of maybe this utopia is not so utopia and people should not be given this sort of power. And yeah, so we follow Citra and Rowan, and they are two apprentice sites, and they kind of discover that maybe their world isn't so perfect. I did actually quite enjoy these, but I just kind of forget everything that happened in them. So then our third surprising book is going to be the Truly Devious series by Maureen Johnson. I didn't bring over the other two books. They're also on the list as surprising because I've never read mystery before. This was my first ever mystery series. I read them back in January, I think, and I loved them. I think the reason that I love them is not really because of the mystery, it is because of the characters. I mean, I also enjoyed the mystery element as well, but the characters in here were just so incredible, and I just absolutely adored them. So I think I gave this a 4, the second book a 4, and then the last book a 5. But I absolutely adored the series, and I kind of want to reread it. So in this book we are at a place called Ellingham Academy, which basically they take in students who are gifted in a particular subject. So our main character Stevie is kind of a true crime like aficionado. He decides that she wants to solve the cold case from Ellingham Academy that happened back in the 1930s. The mystery, it is definitely interesting and all of that, but the characters in here, they're so wonderful and I just really adored them all. So I would definitely recommend this series, even if you're not really into mystery, because I was not. And I still haven't picked up more mysteries, but it's definitely a genre I am open to reading. I will definitely do that at some stage, and there is a 4th book coming out this year, so I will be sure to pick that up. Okay, so then our 4th disappointment. This one you can judge me for because it's ridiculous that I'm including this on the disappointments, but I was disappointed. And that is Chain of Gold by Cassandra Clare. I gave this a 4 out of 5 stars. Can judge me. Yes, I give it a 4 out of 5 stars. A 4 out of 5 stars is a very, very good rating. But I was still disappointed. I love The Infernal Devices. It is my favorite series, and it just holds such a special place in my heart. And I have been looking forward to this book for like 5 years now. Probably 6, I don't know. But I have been looking forward to this book forever. And I thought it was going to be the next Infernal Devices, and that I was going to just fall in love with these characters and absolutely adore this series with my whole being, and I just liked it. I didn't fall in love with it. I didn't absolutely adore these characters. I thought they were okay, and I liked the book. I thought the book was okay, and there's nothing terrible about this book. There's nothing wrong with this book, but I just didn't love it, and that is the bottom line. I just didn't fall in love with this story, which I thought I would, and that's a bit disappointing, but what can you do about it? I can completely place the blame of this on myself. I put way too much expectations on this book, and I've definitely lowered them going into Chain of Iron, but also at the same time I'm like, Lucy and Jessie please, and if I don't get a load of them I will not be impressed. So this is another Shadowhunter series. It is the start of a new one, and it follows the children of the characters from The Infernal Devices. So Cordelia Carstairs has just arrived in London and she is reunited with some friends, her friend Lucy and Lucy's brother James, and all of their friends. And they've had a fairly peaceful childhood. All of a sudden these very strange demon attacks happen and it's up to them to discover what is causing them. So we have 3 more books to discuss, and the 3 of these we can kind of nearly put them together because they're kind of, well, the disappointing one is because of how much I was surprised by the other 2 ones. That doesn't make any sense, but you'll understand it when I get to it. So we'll talk about the surprising one first, and that is 10 Blind Dates by Ashley Elston. I do not have it. I listened to it on audiobook back in April, I think, and I adore this story. I was just looking for something to listen to while I was playing The Sims, and I just clicked on it, and I was so pleasantly surprised. It was so interesting. I loved the characters and the family, and the relationships in there was so incredible, and I really enjoyed it. It follows a girl who overhears her boyfriend talking to his friend that he might be about to dump her, and so she saves him the hassle of doing it by dumping him. She's heartbroken and her parents have gone to her older sister who is having a baby, and she is left in her grandmother's house with all of her crazy family. To cheer her up, her grandmother comes up with the idea that they will set her up on 10 dates between Christmas and New Year's. I think that's the timing of it, maybe. I can't remember. Around that timing. Some of them are taking this bet very seriously, while others are doing it for their own personal gain. And it was so funny. I love family dynamics and friendships and all of that, and I thought it was so well done in here. And it wasn't just a sweet kind of romance. There was the worry about her sister and her baby, and there was discussions of her going to college and her cousins who they always were really close and have now grown apart, and I really did enjoy it so much, and it was such a pleasant surprise for me. And I actually think it was during my mid-year book freakout tag, which I'm not going to link that because it was like my second video. You can go find it if you want to, but I'm pretty sure I said that that was my most surprising book so far, so it's still one of my most surprising books of the year. The last disappointment that I'm going to talk about, as I said, it is kind of connected to the fact that I loved 10 Blind Dates so much, and that is The 12 Dates of Christmas by Jenny Bayliss. And it's a good thing I didn't film any of these in December because this was my last book of the year. So it squeezed right in there. Yeah, unfortunately, this book was not for me. I thought it was just really boring. It kind of follows a pretty similar premise to 10 Blind Dates. It follows a pretty similar premise, but it follows an older character and she signs up for this dating service. I can't even remember the character's name and I only read it like a week ago. Kate. I think it was Kate. She signed up for a dating service. It was so boring. And as I said, and so I would recommend you read 10 Blind Dates over 12 Dates of Christmas because they're extremely similar premises. But despite the fact 12 Dates of Christmas is an adult book, I thought 10 Blind Dates was a lot deeper and had a lot more complex topics discussed and was just a lot more fun. It just did it all better. Like, nothing happened in 12 Dates of Christmas. I was so bored by Kate. I thought there was no chemistry. I guessed from page 1 who she would end up with, which I also guessed in 10 Blind Dates, but like at least by the end of that, I understood why. But like in 12 Dates of Christmas, I didn't understand why. They had no chemistry. I just thought it was very boring and I thought the dates were very repetitive. Like all of these dates, they were the exact same. And all of the reasons that the men weren't good for her were the exact same. All of them weren't over their ex. Every single one of them nearly. And I did not enjoy that. I thought it was like, there's other reasons not to like someone. Like, could she not have thought of any other reasons? Like, maybe they just didn't have a connection. So yeah, it was quite a disappointing read for me. And it was the second adult romance that I've ever read. And unfortunately, it was a 2 out of 5 stars for me. I did not enjoy it. And so my quest to find romance that I love will continue. And that also brings us to the final book we're going to discuss and my last surprising read, and that is The Kiss Quotient by Helen Huang. And this is a romance book. And that is another reason why The 12 Dates of Christmas was so disappointing for me, because I had never read a romance book before this year, and I finally picked one up and I really enjoyed The Kiss Quotient, and I was excited to try another one with the 12 Dates of Christmas, and then I just didn't love it. My quest is continuing. There will definitely be something in February, so recommend me some romance down below, please. I can't remember when I read it, but I was thoroughly entertained. So this follows Stella, who is autistic, and she has had terrible experience with men, and so she decides the perfect way to do this, to fix this, is to get more practice, and for this she hires a male escort, Michael, and soon sparks fly, and I just absolutely adore them. I read this in like 2 days. And the first half of it I absolutely adored because it was just like pining and pining and pining, and I was like, oh my god, I love this. And I was just like screaming like, oh my god, you love each other. And it was just really cute. Like, it was definitely a bit insta-lovey, but honestly I just loved it anyway because it was just written really well. And from like 50% to like 75% I was a bit kind of getting a bit annoyed because it was really repetitive, and I remember thinking, I was like, oh, I don't like romance, do I? And then right at the end it like picked up again and it finished perfectly, and I gave it a 4 stars in the end. So there was a small bit in there where I was like, ugh, I don't really like this. In the end I loved it. So I'm definitely going to continue to try and find what romance fits me. I'm never going to be the kind of person who reads a lot of romance, but you know, just so every so often as like a palate cleanser, I can just pick one up and get through it quickly. And I'm definitely going to continue the Kiss Quotient series. I'll probably read that in February, and then I know there's a 3rd one coming out. So those are my disappointing and my surprising reads of 2020. Tell me down below what were yours, and also recommend me some romance. Thank you guys so much for watching. I do hope you enjoyed. If you did, subscribe, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye!